Life is difficult for the humble Reboot. Has there ever been a reboot that people actually liked? Other than the Michael Bay Transformers, I mean. Let me rephrase. Has there been a reboot that actually was good? What about the 2022 Saints Row reboot? Sure, people hated it at the time, but did it deserve the lambastery?
No one knows for sure, but I intend to find out. Reboot!
Welcome to the 7th installment of Koobert Opens Worlds, the premier ranking of open world drivey-shooty crime games. There's so many games left to go. I mean, there's GTA Chinatown Wars, True Crime New York, that horse game. But this month, we're taking a look at Volition's swan song, the 2022 Clean Slate Saints Row reboot. On Cow, I like to take a look at an open world drivey-shooty crime game, the developer that made it, the context of its release, and then give it a thorough review and score. Then I'll rank it against all the other open world drivey-shooty crime games and see where it lands. It's purely objective in the sense that I pretend it is, because I use math and numbers.
For the first time in
Koobert Opens Worlds
history,
we're taking a look at the second game in a series. So especially given the short time between the release of Saints Row the 3rd Remaster and Saints Row 2022, we'll take a break to see which one is best in a grueling monster brawl between these two beefy, sweaty titans. I finished the game back in 2023, but I've refreshed my memory by spending several hours of it recently here in the space-age future of 2025. Please allow me to dust off these ancient 2-year-old gameplay recordings. If you want to skip directly to the review, check out the chapters or click on over to 35 minutes. Volition was an American software company based in Illinois, which according to Wikipedia is some kind of US province. Volition Software was started in 1993 by Mike Koulis and Matt Toshlog under their original name, Parallax Software Corporation, which means they're the Descent folks? The Saints Row folks are the Descent folks! That's right, they made that groundbreaking 3D shooter that I wanted to play so damn bad in 1995. This was pre-Quake 1, and the first free-roaming textured polygonal environment that had been released on PC, a month before 3D Realms' own Terminal Velocity and blowing that game's style out of the water. Except instead of water, it was a 3D maze. Originally, Parallax was going to release an expansion, but the Interplay monolith was creaking at the seams and required money, so they put out a standalone sequel instead, Descent 2. Parallax then swapped names to Volition, as it was now a collaboration of two studios, with the second running out of Michigan, which you would think would work nicely with Parallax, but hey. In 1998, they created Descent Free Space, which started the brief but popular Free Space series, the last big standout in the formerly massive genre of space sim shooter. But Descent's publisher Interplay was in the midst of imploding, even with the popularity of Fallout, another Interplay release. And Descent 3 didn't hit in 1999 with only middling sales. With Interplay in a tailspin, Volition no longer had access to the Descent franchise as they didn't own the rights to it, so they moved on to a new project, Red Faction.
Come on, tough guy!
Red Faction was an early hit for the PlayStation 2 thanks to its snappy gunplay and nifty terrain deformation with its geomod technology.
Help! Help!
What on earth is a Red Faction? More like, what on Mars is a Red Faction, am I right? You play as a Martian miner, Parker, in this first-person shooter set against the backdrop of unrestrained capitalism and worker exploitation. The Ultor Corporation has nefarious goals for the miner. But with Parker and the Red Faction forces combining with the Earth Defense Force, but not that Earth Defense Force, they save Mars from the nanomachine plague Ultor has created. Released so quickly that the two blur together, Red Faction 2 sees Mars under the control of the now tyrannical EDF, and you control explosive expert Alias as she saves the world. Wait, not that Alias. Unlike the first Red Faction 2 released on more than just the PS2 and PC. Somehow Red Faction also released on Xbox and GameCube, meaning it achieved the 5th generation triumvirate. I've only got the PS2 version here. It's easy to get since it's still on sale on the PS3 store. And you know what? It actually plays pretty great. Blasting through walls is nifty, it feels much tighter and more modern than Red Faction 1. It does have a extremely 1990s cast of characters.
Shrike, vehicles, a madman with a taste for speed. Quill, sharpshooter, a killer without a conscience. Tangier, covert reconnaissance, secretive and deadly. Repta, heavy weapons, the ultimate destructive force. I am Molav, the squad leader. And he is Alias. Demolitions. For the honor of the Commonwealth, tonight Sopat dies.
That sort of Rob Liefeld, terrible character art design that basically, right up until the 20s, I really hated. But now, it's nostalgic. While I think of this kind of character design as a 1990s thing, Fighting Force typifies it for me. I don't know if you remember the much touted Xbox exclusive Brute Force. That game had a similar looking gang of kinda cringy miscreants, and that was a 2003 game. The Liefeld looks grip on pulp culture had some staying power. At least they gave that lizard man some slutty leather briefs.
Hey, Alias, you here all by your lonesome? I know how to handle these things.
Surprisingly, given the team of fighters in this one, you're only playing as Alias. Again, not that one. Look, there's only one Alias, and she's a super spy with a severe wig addiction. Volition would dip into that style of game, but in 2017 with Agents of Mayhem. More on that later, but it does take place in the shared Red Faction / Saints Row universe. Volition teamed up with Marvel, with the hyper-violent The Punisher on PC, PS2, and Xbox, going for a hard M. This was surprising for a comic book game adaptation at the time, but in line with the general concept of The Punisher and his comics. The moment-to-moment gameplay of The Punisher isn't actually all that different from Saints Row, right down to the weapon choices and holding people as human shields. But it's a testament to the animation, sound, and art design that somehow everything seems lighter in the Saints Row series, with one big exception I'll get to later, and more brutal in The Punisher. This is definitely on purpose. That, and The Punisher does lean on its violent interrogation and execution scenes.
He's heading there! Let me go, please!
It's too gross.
Red Faction went on to two more games, Red Faction Guerrilla in 2009, and Red Faction Armageddon in 2011. Red Faction Guerrilla is, in its own way, an open-world drivey-shooty crime game, so it will need its own cow ranking. But to make things short, the EDF is still controlling Mars, and you're once again part of its resistance. But now its geomod technology turns towards physics interaction and destructible buildings. Even now, blowing out the supports of its buildings and watching them crumble under their own weight is remarkable, and the remasters on modern consoles play flawlessly too, even on Switch. After Guerrilla's success, Sci-Fi worked with Volition to create a Red Faction TV movie, Red Faction Origins, and with Sci-Fi released Armageddon. This time it took things back to the original direction with a shorter, focused shooter campaign, playing much more like a Gears of War than a Grand Theft Auto. In these much tighter environments, there was still a deep focus on destruction along with reconstruction, as the hallways you were walking through could easily be exploded or disintegrated by yourself, or this time, your enemies. Although a linear narrative campaign certainly had history with the series, it just didn't end up capturing the audience's imagination like the destructible open worlds of Guerrilla, and the game ended up with mediocre reviews and mediocre sales. This would signal the last of the Red Faction franchise. At the 2010 Spike Video Game Awards, Guillermo del Toro announced with Volition their collaboration on horror game Insane, to be launched in 2013 for the PlayStation 3, PC, and 360. Sadly, this and Silent Hills both collapsed, leaving Del Toro assuming he's some kind of video game curse in an interview on Shack News. Fortunately for the world, we did get Virtual Del Toro in the Adventures of Babysitting remake Death Stranding. During all this, Volition went bankrupt, and its titles were divided up amongst Koch Media, which I was surprised to note is not related to Koch Industries, or the Koch brothers, Koch, or their libertarian think tank, the Cato Institute. This is, of course, leaving out one series that defined Volition through the 2000s and 2010s, Saints Row.
These aren't handcuffs. They're cutting-edge devices that keep us all connected.
Us? Oh, us.
To understand better some of the negative fan reaction to the 2022 Saints Row reboot, you have to look back at the sheer amount of games and world building put into the 5.5 Saints Row games created before it. Both the series and the boss have gone through a lot. I do realize now that I should have started with the first one and gone forward for Cow, but I've already finished the third and the reboot. However, from here on out, I'll handle the series in a relatively chronological order for future games. And understanding why the game rebooted does require a bit of a tour through the first 16 years of games in the series, before things started over. But these quick looks won't replace a full Cow treatment, don't worry. At its release in 2006, I'd assumed Saints Row to be a cheap, quickly created discount version of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, but the game had been in development for some time before San Andreas' release. According to the pretty neat dev diaries on the old GameSpy site by developer Christopher Stockman and technical director Alan Lawrence, the game had been in development since 2003 under the pretty cringe-inducing codename Bling Bling. One thing Stockman underlines is they wanted to differentiate themselves from the relatively linear narrative push stories of Grand Theft Auto by putting the O back into open world, and allowing more of the progression to be dictated by the player, with the majority of the game's time based on working through activities rather than story missions.
Welcome to the 3rd Street Saints. Let's get down to business. If we're serious about taking back the row, we gotta let those motherfuckers know what time it is. Now you break it down, and it's all about respect. Get enough of it, they're gonna back off, and we're gonna move right on in.
The 3rd Street Saints want to go big time, and with Keith David as their leader, they grab all the territory, sex workers, and drugs they can carry. Activities included the series' standard escort mission, where you drive around a sex worker and their client while trying to avoid paparazzo attention.
Great, baby. Keep your eyes on the road, not the back seat.
Hijacking, where you have to ram a car off the road and bring it back to a mechanic. The Chop Shop and Hitman target list, and of course the classic Mayhem missions and insurance fraud. Mayhem is very much in the spirit of the Mayhem side missions in GTA games, but this time it's based around the amount of overall damage you can do, whether in the form of exploding cars, shot people, or property damage. Harnessing the power of the Xbox 360, now there's plenty of physicalized objects around the world, like fences, phone booths, restaurant seating, and more, to explode, as well as people, which in this mode serves the useful role of extending your combos. These side missions often involve helping out the rival gangs of the area and help flesh out the world. It's neat. I do enjoy that this is the first game. You don't start out as the boss, but a recruit, known as Playa, in a fun fourth wall breaking moment. Saints Row 2 continues your adventures in Stillwater after an extended coma. You've got to get the old gang together and take control of the city, all while an evil Jay Moore plots against you.
No, see, my problem is that a sideshow freak is messing up my paperwork.
There's someone I want you to meet. This is my very good friend, President Steen. Would you like to say hi to her?
Hi, President Steen.
Hello. You're a daddy.
I'm a daddy.
So, what's your name?
Diane.
Like me.
I named him after his mother.
I'm a mother?
Moore is the CEO of Ultor Corporation, which, yes, does reveal the world of Saints Row somehow leads to the world of Red Faction Guerrilla, a revelation that gets further confusing as the story of the Saints evolve. The sky in 2008 darkened as all the stars were in this game, like Michael Dorn.
The Brotherhood is about to come into something big, and I think the Saints are going to want to get in on the ground floor.
You
are not my type. I never said I was.
You guys actually hang out down here?
I don't know. Add a flat screen, some throw pillows, and a hookah, and this place would be alright.
Yakuza's Eliza Dushku.
You guys already drunk? Let me in.
I thought Altor wanted order. Okay, letting these assholes out's gonna only make things worse.
Troy.
Deep Blue Sea's Michael Rappaport, who I still think should have a YouTube channel called Michael Rappaport's Rap Report, but he never answers my fan mail.
Nice place you got here, Shandy.
What are you doing here?
I've been watching this place. I know you're here alone.
Not for long, I'm not, so you better get the...
Don't make this difficult.
Bitch!
And, of course, Doogie Howser.
Say you feel a new lump in a sensitive spot, and you're feeling like a chump cause it itches a lot. Just ask Dr. Doogie. Ask Dr. Doogie. You say you're a girl? It's a little late. You're kind of scared. Don't know your fate, just ask Dr. Doogie. Ask Dr. Doogie.
What do you want me to do about it?
My cousin runs a septic company. I figured you could borrow one of his trucks, drive around the area and, well, you know.
You really think people are gonna want to buy houses if the area's covered in shit?
It's really hard to find cheap housing in Stillwater.
Although in reality I'm strongly in favor of responsible septic waste management, you have to admit that spraying shit over houses to get them to sell to a sociopathic gay realtor is one of the more memorable Saints Row activities. But it also introduces one of my favorites in Hell the Assault and the faux cops reality show Fuzz. One interesting thing with Saints Row 2 compared with many video games is its generally positive view on drug use.
My name is Danny, and I'm here to say when it comes to drugs, just stay away. Don't be a loser and don't be a jerk when you play and when you work. I'm Danny. He's Danny. I'm Danny.
Even Grand Theft Auto tends to couch its drug use within morality tales, like guys who do a bunch of coke tend to meet rough ends. Maybe not with Ken Rosenberg at Vice City, but still.
Hey, I got you a present.
A light bulb. Just what I always wanted.
Come on, you think I'd just give you a light bulb?
A face shredder. Just what I always wanted.
Smoke this.
Ever hear of a pipe?
Pipes cost money. Money that can be used for drugs or shoes.
What is it?
It's the Sons of Samdi's #1 product. They call it Loa Dust.
But you smoke it.
They suck at marketing, what can I say?
Maybe it's okay because it's a made-up drug at least?
Because drugs can kill. And if you do drugs, you go to hell before you die. Please.
Put in your tampons and let's do this.
Saints Row the Third you all know because you've seen my cow entry on the game. But in case you forgot, this 2011 classic has the boss now basically a cross between the characters of Big Money Hustlers and Fast and Furious, but the later ones, like the one with the safe in Brazil.
You're under arrest.
Arrest? I don't feel like I'm under arrest.
Right now, that game still holds the top spot in my ranking of all open-world drivey-shooty crime games due to a gorgeous remaster by Sparasoft, as well as just a focus on almost Warner Brothers-like antics where you smash, shoot, and pile drive your way through the city of Steelport. The Saints are now a multinational corporation and taking sponsorships while also criminals, but fighting different criminals and trying to save the city that they crash-landed in as well as take it over. It's full of early 2010s internet epic bacon humor, such as the mayor being Burt Reynolds. Not played by Burt Reynolds, but actually Burt Reynolds.
Viola, is this the kid you were talking about? Burt fucking Reynolds? Who else could keep this town running?
I'm sure if they could have found Chuck Norris for the role, they would have, but that game is genuinely great, and kind of a time capsule for the exact 2011 era of comedy. Saints Row 4 continues almost exactly where the third left off, but with the boss now President of the United States.
Listen, we've got enough clout right now for one major bill, not both. What do you want me to push forward? Do you want to be the president who cured cancer or the president who solved world hunger?
Speaking of hunger, tell the kitchen to send up a burger.
Good choice.
Things get weirder from there, to the point where now the boss can avoid the rules of physics, and basically has Crackdown-style superpowers. Any semblance of Grand Theft Auto and San Andreas in particular are gone, and the series went off the deep end into strange power fantasies, and it's fantastic.
I never did it.
Agents of Mayhem, on the other hand, is a weird case. It takes place in the mid-distant future after Saints Row 4 on Earth in South Korea, and it's kind of an Overwatch, but also an open-world drivey-shooty crime game. But there's ultimates and a cast of preset characters and good and evil groups. It has a Destiny but third-person feel to the combat too, and the shiny future buildings remind me a bit of Battleborn. I thought at first that it was taking the Saints Row franchise and putting a T14 more kid-friendly sheen on it, however, with a Borderlands-style UI, but then the characters started dropping F-bombs, so I have absolutely no idea what this game is or who it is for, because it seems to be straight up like a kid's game. I don't hate it, however. I like the look, and I'm curious how it integrates the bonkers ending of Saints Row 4 into its fiction. There's also the strange standalone Saints Row 4 spin-off, Gat Out of Hell, where you play as Johnny Gat rescuing the boss from hell. It's the third reuse of Steelport, but this time with a sort of skin that reminds you of Darksiders, especially when Gat flies around with flaming wings. And hey, Jay Moore is back.
Where'd you put the president?
I've been trying to explain that. I didn't take them.
Bullshit. You expect me to believe you just happened to be the first thing we see in hell?
Maybe it's just me, but your thank you sounds more like an accusation.
I have not played much of this. Either way, it's no surprise that any Saints Row game after 4 is either going to have to be a very strange one like Agents of Mayhem or Gat Out of Hell, or a complete clean slate reboot like Saints Row 2022. And they did the strange one. They did Agents of Mayhem. It was a huge bomb, no one played it, so perhaps as a final Hail Mary for Volition, a reboot it is.
They needed a plan, and Johnny had one.
Remember 2022? Apparently everyone was rocking out to Harry Styles' Low Key As It Was.
It's just us. You know it's not the same as it was.
Doja Cat was everywhere.
Bitch, I'm a cow. Bitch, I'm a cow. Bitch, I'm a cow. I go moo.
Olivia Rodrigo was breaking out.
You betrayed me, and I know that you'll never feel sorry.
And Glass Animals reminded us of the difficulty of transporting broadcast quality CRTs in a heat wave. They do weigh a ton. Lil Nas X even had multiple top 40 hits, with his biggest one of the year being That's What I Want.
I know these days are way too long, and I'm not forgiving love away, but I want someone to love me.
Also, Stranger Things led society as a whole to the truth that, yes, running up that hill is a banger.
It's you and me, and if only could, I'd make a deal with God, and I'd get him to swap places.
Oh yeah, there was also a new Omicron wave of COVID-19, with Orson Welles' last performance voicing the evil planet/virus strain.
Time I considered sparing your wretched little planet, Cybertron. But now we shall witness its dismemberment.
Thankfully, vaccines and boosters were becoming easier to reach worldwide. We also learned not to make fun of Will Smith's wife.
That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
To be fair, she has alopecia, and we were all cooped up inside for 2 years. Everyone was a bit testy in 2022.
It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth!
I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay.
Don't Worry Darling launched with a disastrous press tour.
Yeah, you know what we're talking about. This viral moment with Chris Pine at the Venice Film Festival, which had the internet wondering, did Harry spit on Chris?
And Heidi Klum dressed up as a worm.
Before Heidi. How are you, honey? I'm amazing. How are you guys?
It was a year of contrasts. In the 2000s, it seemed like open-world, drivey-shooty crime games were the inescapable future of video games. And yet, by 2022, their releases went from fire hose blast to a trickle. What happened? Quite a lot. But to put it simply, the main two factors were the sheer amount of failures and the resources required to make them. The 2000s were chock-a-block with venture capital money going towards new open-world games, right up until the financial collapse in 2008. The inspiration was obvious. Grand Theft Auto 3 and its trilogy of PS2-era games were staggering successes, and their pop culture cachet grew with each successive release. This led to a lot of money being poured into projects like Midway's Wheelman, which of course was meant to be the start of a cross-media film and game franchise starring Vin Diesel.
Which one of you is Felipe?
Do I know you?
Not yet. My name's Milo Burek. I just came in from Miami. I'm looking for a job.
What do you do, Milo from Miami?
I'm a wheelman.
Or the Warner Brothers / Midway collaboration, This is Vegas, canceled after $50 million in development.
Keep the drinks flowing, the dance floor hot, and the losers out.
Let's get the party started. Aqua is a mid-tier club located in the southern part of Vegas, off the Strip.
I actually want to go to Haunted House more than I want to go to Aqua.
Activision had their own series with True Crime, but after LA and New York failed to hit their targets, they ended up canceling their follow-up, which at first was an original game called Black Lotus, then renamed to True Crime Hong Kong. This game did eventually see release when its developers United Front Games teamed up with Square Enix, but United Front didn't survive, and the game was more of an underground hit. A sleeper hit, if you will. It was Sleepy Dogs. Mad Max director George Miller was working with Team Bondi, fresh off their time with Rockstar and LA Noire, to make the never-going-to-make-it-to-retail titled game Horror of the Orient, which took place in 1930 Shanghai. But Team Bondi was unable to find companies to partner with after reports of their terrible working conditions surfaced, and their assets were purchased by Kennedy Mitchell Miller Interactive Entertainment, and the game continued to be worked on up until its official cancellation in 2016. These games were a money pit, unless you were Rockstar, or Ubisoft, weirdly. Grand Theft Auto V's release in 2013 in many ways single-handedly crippled the genre. It was just so big and so expensive, costing nearly $300 million at launch. The sheer amount of staff required to create a game that large and that detailed, along with the contraction of venture capital funds post-collapse, meant that very few companies were willing to bankroll that kind of game, at that kind of scale. After 2010, non-Rockstar interest in the genre dried up. No one had the resources to make these games, and the credit squeeze meant that money wasn't flooding into game companies to build a risky venture like a huge-budget open-world game. Add to it the 2010s concept of forever games, as well as live service games. You have one title capturing much of the attention of the open-world crime genre's players for over a decade with Rockstar's insanely popular Grand Theft Auto Online. And if someone was going to spend $300 million on a game, why not a game that demands continued spending via expansion and microtransactions like a Destiny, or a Suicide Squad, or an Avengers? That isn't to say the open-world genre was dead, far from it. Now the icon-filled open-world third-person action game is a cliché, but it's a cliché that tends to take the form of a Spider-Man swinging around the outside of buildings, or an Aloy hunting dinosaurs in a ruined far future, or an assassin with some kind of creed walking around a historical environment. It's not to say that open-world drivey-shooty crime games are dead. You do have the underrated Homefront The Revolution, as well as the half GTA, half Assassin's Creed Watch_Dogs series, but neither are as focused on vehicles as a GTA or a Saints Row. And the last Watch_Dogs was a 2020 release, and kind of a weird one. Though I think time will look back more favorably on that one. Watch_Dogs Legion's Play As Anyone system basically meant a big assortment of procedurally generated random player characters, almost any of whom could be recruited into the hacker collective of DedSec. Sadly, probably due to the animation workload, the Watch_Dogs universe no longer had big guys in it with this game, meaning you couldn't have a beefy boy protagonist.
One of these days, someone's going to set you on fire!
But still, the game is pretty cool. It did go on to sell over 10 million units, but its middling critical reaction has put the series on ice for the past 5 years. And we can't forget about the initial boom, disaster, and recovery of Cyberpunk 2077. Of course, you might be saying, Koobert, that's an RPG. That's not an open-world drivey-shooty crime game. And I'd say that genres are fluid, and this is an open-world game where you do crimes and you do drive and shoot, so it counts. It counts. This was a massive delayed juggernaut of a game that released with Bethesda levels of brokenness, and an almost $500 million budget, once again scaring the crap out of anyone vaguely interested in putting their money against a safe bet. Sure, it made money in the long run, but with enough time, most good games do if they eventually get positive word of mouth and remain on sale, especially on PC. It's just that shareholder-driven corporate ideology is only interested in the immediate, this quarter results, not long-term value. Also, the real crime of Cyberpunk 2077, you gotta be a twink. There are plenty of beefy boys in the game, but you can't be one. Why, hello, Cassius.
How's biz treating you, Cassius?
Lately, can't complain. MaxTac raided a black clinic not long past. Since then, custom accounts gone up, and so my prices. Coincidence? You decide.
Now that I think about it, one of my personal favorite games of 2024 was a drivey-shooty open-world crime game, just one set in the Star Wars universe, and boy, that too was an expensive one, as you can see from the crazy good graphics and immense detailed world. It too was a sales flop, selling less than 1 million units in the launch month. It reviewed well, and I like it myself, but it launched unfinished and took a while to get into working shape. So Volition's new game couldn't hope to have the scope and detail of a $300 million beast like a Grand Theft Auto V, but Volition had made a name for themselves creating open-world games on smaller scale and with lower budgets. And this wasn't an indie game. Saints Row 2022 was a $100 million project, which, while on the low end for modern big-budget releases, is still an incredible amount of money. GameSpot's Eddie Makuch wrote an interesting article that I have to go through with you. It's titled, Saints Row Studio was too expensive for what they were, exec says. Quote, Saints Row Studio Volition shut down in 2023 after 30 years, leading many to wonder about the future of open-world crime franchise. The fate of the franchise is unknown, but Saber Interactive founder Matthew Karch shared some context surrounding the series. In short, he said the developer got too expensive to maintain. The Saints Row team is gone. They were so expensive for what they were, Karch told Steven Totilo for his GameFile newsletter, as reported by GamesRadar. They didn't know what they were building. They didn't have any real direction and it couldn't last. And so, who's going to fund them for the next game after that disaster? The newest Saints Row game was the 2022 Reboot. This game underperformed commercial expectations at launch, but Embracer's CEO said he was confident the game would make money and serve as a starting point for the series going forward. Reacting to the closure of Volition, Karch said, It would be nice in an ideal world for everyone to have a job. However, games with 9-figure budgets that bring in 8 figures of revenue may not be sustainable, he said. That's dooming a lot of developers, Karch explained. The days of throwing money at games other than maybe the GTAs of the world is over, he added. It's over. This business needs to mature. If it doesn't, the whole business is in trouble. Unfortunately, that means layoffs. Before this, Karch said incredibly expensive video games are not necessary and contribute to job losses in the industry. I think that the age of 200 million, 300 million, 400 million AAA games is on its way out. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's appropriate. Karch said aboard his $23 million private jet. In 2023, Karch's Beacon Interactive bought certain assets from Saber's parent company, Embracer, as a part of divestiture from Embracer's business operations in Russia. It was at this time that Karch and Embracer officially parted ways, with Beacon effectively buying Saber out of Embracer. Unquote. So as you can see, this is, what I would call a damning indictment of the industry. Here's the thing. I bet Saints Row 2022 will be profitable in the long run, now that the dust has settled. It's very playable, and the shock of it being a Gen Z-focused reboot is over. But the Karches of this world don't care about long-term revenue. A bad game is bad forever. But is Saints Row 2022 a bad game? Let's check it out. No. No, the new Saints Row was not a success. As of May 2024, according to Game World Observer quoting a former Volition community manager, Saints Row 2022 sold less than 2 million copies in 2 years. This is right when it appeared as a monthly free game on PS Plus, after appearing as a free game on the Epic Store on PC at the end of 2023. I think I picked it up deeply discounted a year after release on the Epic Store in summer 2023. Oh yeah, it probably also didn't help that it launched on the Epic Store and not Steam, where people like to buy games. And frankly, a year after release is a good time to pick up a modern big-budget game, especially on PC, but now also on consoles. Games are pushed out the door half-baked and still needing months of patches and fixes. This isn't an entirely new thing. I had several unfinishable games back in the day. The PC Barra Leather Kink RPG Dark Sun, released by SSI in 1993, had several game-breaking bugs that would require downloading patches from BBSs or requesting fixed floppies from SSI themselves. That same year, I'd received Sierra's Quest for Glory 3 as a birthday present, and it had shipped in a state where this particular monster you needed to hunt, a T-Rex, would never spawn, and I didn't know I could call Sierra and ask for a fixed copy. At least I have the game now and can, at some point, actually pick up the series where I left it off. At any rate, releasing unfinished, uncompletable games in 1993 and 2022 is bad, and we can all agree that shouldn't be a thing that happens. But at least now, for the most part, games are eventually fixed. Most of the time. This is important context for the sheer negativity that Saints Row 2022 received on launch. Especially on consoles, it wasn't finished. And there was a big fan backlash too, angry at the rebooting with a more Gen Z style sense of humor and characters, perhaps with a dash of this.
How do you do, fellow kids? What?
I didn't even mess with it with the giant bomb folks being generally bored by the game, even though Saints Row the 3rd and 4 were huge favorites of mine and theirs. But I'm glad I did give the game a shot a year later because, and I guess this is kind of a spoiler for the review, it turned out to be a game I really enjoyed. Saints Row 2022 is a full clean slate reboot. This isn't new for the genre. Grand Theft Auto games have traditionally rebooted their universes with each console generation, though I guess the jury's out on whether 6 will continue with the universe of characters established with 4 and 5. But the Saints Row games have had a consistent group of characters from the start, through Gat Out of Hell, and apparently Agents of Mayhem. Given that the title of the games refer to a specific group in a specific place, this means that this Saints Row in a different city will need a new origin story, and yeah, a lot of fans were not into this idea. This time the city is the fictional Santo Ileso, a sort of Santa Fe or Albuquerque, a mid-sized New Mexico city. This gives the series a chance to explore a new part of the country, one that hasn't been represented much, at least in games set in the modern day. There's a little bit of Las Vegas to it too, a strip in the middle of the desert with big casinos dripping with neon. Outside of the strip, it doesn't have the urban high-rises you'd expect from a big city open world game. Instead, the sprawling low-density urban-suburban industrial lots you'll find throughout mid-sized cities of the United States, and a mix of architectural styles that dates back to Spanish colonialism, Gold Rush-era American expansion, and modern mini-malls and condos. The game's got a unique and well-thought-out sense of place, and it's surrounded by a few miles of open desert in each direction, much like Cyberpunk. This game's UI graffiti splashes are distinctly based in the combination of indigenous pueblos, tribes, nations, and the modern influx of folks from all over the United States as well as Mexico. I think it's neat, but I can in no way speak to whether or not it's a positive representation, as I'm just a white dude from Quebec. As mealy-mouthed liberal as it sounds, though this is through the lens of the folks who created the game, I do like how video games give you an opportunity for at least a version of what it's like to live and walk through and exist somewhere else, say Tokyo or Renaissance Italy or the southwestern US desert. We open on a Saints party, where you can see what cool people your Saints are, as a lawyer tries to meet up with your character, the boss.
Why?
You're quickly stabbed by a guy and buried alive. What a flash forward! But then back in time to the beginning. The game starts you off as a new recruit to Marshall Security, a sort of PMC / private police force.
PMCs. Private military companies.
That's right. PMCs have no basis in nations or ideologies. They are private enterprises, driven by profit.
Fighting the criminal forces of a mastermind known as the Nawali. Your boss, who you quickly get to design, can be pretty much whoever you want them to be. There's no pronoun selector, but you'll notice that you're generally referred to as they anyways.
Pronoun was made to take the place of a noun, 'cause saying all those nouns over and over can really wear you down.
Sadly, I couldn't figure out a good way to honor Leslie Hall with a good boss avatar. While I think the character creator in this and Saints Row the 3rd and 4 make more human, natural-looking avatars, I do miss the amount of control you had with the one in Saints Row 1 and 2. Also, for some reason, makeup is always applied with full opacity. You have to tweak it every time, which seems like a weird constraint. Yes, men, women, twinks, bears, androgynous and agender, whoever you want to make, whatever size you want to make them. This is what I love with a generous character creator. There's only one flaw. You can't be short. Short kings unite. You can also assign a selection of voices to your character, which you can adjust the pitch on too. Plus, if you like a nice, natural, shiny look to your character, you can dump what appears to be 3 gallons of baby oil on them for a beautiful, greasy shine.
Alpha team, go!
First day on the job. Let's do this.
Newbie, catch up!
Right! Let's kick some holy shit!
Turrets, take cover!
As soon as you get to the abandoned Old West town, the essence of your character is established. They're wisecracking, friendly, affable, a bit down on their luck, and also a murder machine. It's not exactly spelled out how they became to be a supernaturally gifted murderer, but they are, and they love it.
Newbie, you still alive?
You sound like you lost the pool.
Fall in! We'll use this APC for cover.
A rolling shield. Nice.
Nah, I'm delighted you approve. Bailey, make a hole!
Roger that.
The rest of your squad is quickly killed, and it's down to you and your supervisor Gwen, voiced by Tox Ola Gondoye. I guess I can cut to her role as Olivia in the sequel reboot of Frasier.
I plan on saying I loved how the themes of his childhood reverberated throughout his life. Really is a richly woven tapestry.
All right, well, the backup brie is in the oven. All right. So, who'd like to go first, then? Olivia?
Me? Well, I liked how the themes of your childhood reverberated throughout your life. I thought it was like a richly woven tapestry.
But Tox is mostly known as a voice actress in everything from Family Guy to Beavis and Butthead. This is a theme going forward with the game. It eschews the celebrity cameo voice cast for talented voice actors, and hey, I'm all for it. For every Mark Hamill as the Joker, there's always going to be an Eliza Dushku phoning it in, and Dushku money would be better served paying people who specialize in and enjoy voice acting roles. I've never understood the impulse to really cram Hollywood actors into games in the first place. Aside from 2 key related ideas, video games are clawing for legitimacy in the form of scooping up award-winning actors, and CEOs and other corporate higher-ups wishing they were making movies instead of stupid, boring baby video games. And feeling like big boys throwing money at famous people so they have to briefly be seen in public with them. As with all broad generalizations, this isn't always true. I feel like Ninja Theory putting so much stock with Andy Serkis wasn't due to him being famous for being Gollum, but for the experience he has with motion capture and the people over at Weta. Vin Diesel's sleepy performance in The Wheelman was something he pushed for from the start, given his investment in games like that and The Chronicles of Riddick.
Do much damage?
Does it matter?
Not really.
And with full performance motion capture, there comes a point where it's just as much an actor putting on a stage play while covered in golf balls. So having someone who's proven to give a good performance makes sense.
Yeah, drink as much as you can. Oh. Drink it from both demons. Oh. Yeah, don't get it in your eyes. Demon blood can blind you. Yeah, swallow the blood.
Anyway, rant over, let's go back to the game. The boss has, in my Big Bear Dude form, his extreme, silly, and dangerous way to solve every problem and ends up deviating more and more from Gwen's plans. This introduces the game's first major instance of what the cool kids call ludonarrative dissonance, a thing that every video game think piece was about after the release of GTA 4 and Uncharted 2. Both of those games, and this one, have a affable and friendly protagonist who also kills a lot of people. And I mean a lot of people. And hey, it's a video game, we can roll with that. And let's talk about a new gameplay system with this reboot. Melee one-hit kills. In previous games, you could, for the most part, one-hit kill almost any non-brute by pressing the awesome button in Melee for a fun, usually wrestling-themed takedown. Now the system works up a meter in the center of the screen. When it reaches 100%, you can unleash an instant kill on anyone in melee range, providing they don't have armor bar left. These range from the Saints Row the Third style martial arts and wrestling takedowns to your lovable lug brutally stabbing a cop to death. In the vein of a manhunt or something. For some reason, the police in Santo Ileso kinda dress like that sheriff from Laser Blast, though. The first time one of these popped up, I was genuinely taken aback. I mean, it's not gory, there's no Mortal Kombat style X-ray or viscera or dismemberment or anything. It's just, as the menu option says, brutal. And seems weirdly out of character with the tone of the game and your protagonist's general cheeriness. They do say how much they love to murder people, though. The boss does save the day after a fun sequence clambering over a Harrier.
You're too predictable.
Am I? You tried. I'll give you that.
Get your hands in the air!
I caught him!
But he doesn't follow orders, so the big money bonus he was expecting for the mission isn't there.
Is this a joke? You ribbing the rookie?
What were you expecting?
There's supposed to be a bonus based on exceptional performance.
That's right. And if you had performed exceptionally, you would have seen a bonus.
Oh, come on. Can you really look me in the eyes and say I didn't do well?
I can look you in the eyes and say you didn't do what you were told.
Meanwhile, you get introduced to your roommates. Eli, a super genius business-minded dude. Kevin, a DJ who works with the gang The Idols. And Nina, who is a mechanic with Los Panteros. And your cat, Snickerdoodle. They're all in what seems to be their early to mid-20s, so perhaps it sticks out a bit when my middle-aged bear boss is hanging out with them there at that apartment, in the same economic and professional doldrums.
What sort of waffle maker can I get for $35?
Presumably one that makes fucking waffles?
Hey, the wage slave is back.
How was your first day? Were the other mercenaries nice to you?
You know, as far as hired killers go, I'd give them a 7.
You look like you could use a mimosa.
Thanks, Eli.
Seriously, how's the job?
It's the murder business.
And I'm still in the murder business. I can hold you down like I'm giving lessons in physics.
I haven't done my research on this, but I wonder if these three were a sticking point for some folks getting into the game. They're ambiguously queer, except with a big old pride flag on the wall, and while they've all got their own quirks, none of them are the boisterous hookers and blows screaming types from the Coca-Cola Classic Saints. Coke 2 Saints are more grounded and chill, and frankly, any game where the protagonists live in a shitty apartment and have problems making ends meet is a million times more relatable to me.
Hi. Do you remember the first time you tried kissing? Ooh. But now. And when you first tried Coke, I bet you said, not for me. But hey, let's not let first impressions sweat, and let's try Coke again, shall we? Because once you've acquired that new wave taste, you're going to want to try it again, and again.
The boss and Gwen become increasingly thorns in each other's side as the Marshal boss, Atticus Marshall, is quick to promote you after you recover a priceless Mayan artifact, the Hummingbird Codex.
Gwen says you were responsible for retrieving the Hummingbird Codex.
If that was something in the truck, then yes.
Impressive work.
I wouldn't have been able to do it without JR, sir.
Team player. I like that.
But the boss's career in the PMC quickly ends after, under his watch, two local gangs, the Panteros and the Idols, dive in to steal the Codex, and he manages to grab it back and save Myra's star, a high-up at Marshall. But sadly at the end, it's quickly realized that he screwed up because...
It's a fake!
So he's fired.
Hey.
Cut to maybe my favorite sequence in any Saints Row game.
I made you breakfast if you want some. That's cool if you don't. Nina wasn't hungry either. I'm sorry about last night. I didn't hear about the museum until it was too late to warn you. The collective don't tell me shit. You should come to the Idols party with Eli and I later. Open bar? No?
I certainly relate to the daily struggle of trying not to feel like a failure as the chokehold of everyday life and money tightens during rough spots. But the boss needs to get out of bed. Obviously, they could use the Colgate pump.
Wake up all you sleepyheads, Colgate gets you out of bed. Now there's the Colgate pump, we've got the Colgate pump. It's a neat new trick, you know, pump it on your brush and go. They got the Colgate pump, she's got the Colgate pump. Even moms and dads agree what makes it good is MSP.
Okay, this is a hat on a hat. But now that I found myself talking about weird old toothpaste commercials from when I was a kid, why were the cavity creeps in the old Crest commercials so thick?
Cavity creep spotted. We make holes in teeth.
Any of you ever wonder that? No? Huh. Okay.
The Judas 3000. If Brutus had had one of these bad boys, he wouldn't have needed the Senate to help stab Caesar.
Kevin and Eli try to talk you into going to an Idols party, but you're too busy wallowing in self-pity. This eventually takes the form of sitting on the couch, depression buying knives off of QVC.
He has to be pretty pissed.
Yeah. Says he's planning on attacking the Idols party.
Man, I'd hate to be the Idols right now. Everyone at that party's probably gonna get killed.
Sucks to be Kevin Eli.
Yeah.
Oh, shit!
We gotta go!
Eli, are you okay?
I don't think so.
And unfortunately, Eli is shot. He's okay, but Kevin is kicked out of the Idols for not betraying his roommates.
No. They're cool. They're with me.
If they're with you, then you get to kill them.
Things look bad, but they decide to turn it around and follow the advice of Eli's self-help books. They're going to be their own bosses.
Guys, we're really good at what we do. So why are we doing it for other people and not ourselves? I mean, you know how to start a business. Kev knows how to get attention. I'm a walking murder party. And Nina? Nina's the best goddamn driver in the business. Who could touch us? Hell, we just took on 2 crews at once and walked away just fine.
I was shot.
And you're getting a sticker, so quit bitching.
They write out a list of needs. They need a name, a logo, and a base which is not their apartment. The last 2 are solved together when they look at a dilapidated old mission on the edge of town.
Well, at least we've got a cool logo.
I'll take it off the whiteboard.
We need a name.
The Saints. We call ourselves the Saints.
Which they wrest control of via some friendly kidnapping.
Fine, take the deed. Take my whole damn briefcase. Just leave me alone.
Pleasure doing business with you. This car is also ours now too, so get the fuck out.
Marshall backed off. You get the deed?
Yep, we got the dude's whole briefcase.
Let's get inside. You got the keys?
Keys? No, just the briefcase.
No problem. I'm sure I can get in through a window or something and open it up.
Now, to establish an empire, they're going to have to get some side businesses and gain territory, both of which start pushing up against the Panteros and Idols. These also start unlocking the side activities and diversions that make up the meat of the game when you're not doing story missions.
Amazing! Look at that! That looks like what you would buy from a store.
Should have been.
Look at all this floor space. So much aerobics in here. So many activities.
The activities for Saints Row 2022 are, for the most part, pretty great with a couple of duds. There's my favorite, which is airlifting. You have to grab vaults and other cargo with your helicopter.
$9.99. Oh, you can eat lobster. The missile strikes, destroys a helicopter.
And then drag it back to a drop-off point. This sounds simple, but it is a lot of goofy fun. You're probably dodging other vehicles and enemies as you do it, but fortunately, you've got a massive swinging piece of cargo you could use for maximum destruction. My other new favorite is where you have to lay on top of the car Pursuit Force / Just Cause style and defend the car you're on. And it's basically a turret or rail shooter, but it's just, I don't know, I really like this one. Here's just seeing my beefy boy rolling around. The duds? There's one where you have to give a business a low star rating, and depending on the review you give, the more waves of goons they hire to take you out. I mean, it's fine, I enjoy the combat, but it's not particularly interesting.
I bet that sounded worse in your head. And good luck with the idols.
The wingsuit one also isn't really for me. I don't love the wingsuit controls, and it's more repetitive than fun. You have to land on various rooftops, take out the agents there, explode the satellite dishes for a telecom bro, and then use the wingsuit launchers to get to the next one. There's a subsystem in the game of establishing different businesses around the city, each with their own associate activity, all in the name of creating tax shelters and front companies. And they actually fit really well into the area in a good way I can't quite put my finger on. I guess in other games where you can drop buildings, sometimes they stick out both literally, like the edges of the facility look weird, or figuratively, like the building is from a completely different place. But here, I don't know. It looks like it's always belonged there. There's Bright Future. This business is all about toxic waste and unfettered capitalism. Basically, your front company takes in barrels of toxic waste, and in classic cartoon, video games, and 80s movie fashion, it's the glowing green kind. And your clients leave the barrels stashed around the city in trucks, ready to be driven back to wherever you place the dumping ground. It may be another case of ludonarrative dissonance. Your boss seems totally okay with the open pit of waste being illegally stored in the city.
Is it safe to have all that toxic waste just out there in the city?
Oh no, not at all. That stuff can turn people into radioactive homicidal maniacs. Be careful out there.
So are you a puckish rogue, a man of the people, or a monster? I mean, I guess the game does establish pretty clearly that you're a psychotic murderer, but I feel like normally you have some quasi-noble goals for doing so. What this suggests is, maybe not? There's the Eureka Baiter, where you test out new inventions, usually putting the life of the boss at risk. These are mostly one-off goofs. It's fine.
Like that?
Perfect. Now head over to Lakeshore.
It works on water.
Sure, if it has power.
The Laundromat is a cleanup crew. You clean up a crime scene and destroy the evidence so people don't go to jail. Each mission has a fun starting moment, like having to grab veggies from a farmer's market for Kevin. But the actual meat of the mission is driving the vehicle stuffed with evidence somewhere to dispose of it while doing your best to avoid police officers and roadblocks.
On your way to the quarry?
Yeah, just trying to remember how to work the scoop on a front loader.
Sorry, can't help you with that. Good luck.
There's Was Year's Repo, and I just love repo minigames. I don't know why. Perhaps it's a secret sociopathic streak I have. I'm sure previous games have had the ability to tow, but to me it's 2006's Driver, Parallel Lines that really got the bug in me. Maybe it's feeling like a big special boy when I turn on all the lights. Perhaps it's fulfilling childhood fantasies, but I love it. Chalupa Cabra, food trucks. Not as much fun as you think. Mostly shooting criminals around a food truck to steal it, and you can unlock special abilities for each truck. Actually, every vehicle in the game has a set of conditions you can meet, basically little challenges, after which you can add a new ability to the car. I've unlocked a few of them, but I haven't actually installed any as it's not really my jam. Heck, I never even put nitrous in any of these cars, and maybe this is a shocking statement. I just don't really like nitrous as a gameplay system. Finally, there's the medical clinic, and this means insurance fraud is back. And the best part of it this time is that it's completely unnecessary story-wise, but in the best way. You tell Tamira, the medical professional running at the front, that you want to throw yourself in traffic, and she's more horrified by each terrifying injury you suffer. It's great.
Hey Tamira, welcome aboard. Ready to get to work?
Sure am. My automated claim generation code is ready for beta testing.
What's that now?
It produces fake records and documents based on real-world data. It should be good enough to fool the fraud detection algorithms.
That sounds really complicated. How about I just throw myself in front of cars and trucks, and the harder they hit me, the more money we get?
Sure, if you want to die. With my system, all we gotta do is push a button.
How about I do insurance fraud my way, and you do it your way?
You're the boss. Just be careful out there.
There's also smaller challenges that aren't exactly missions. They don't have separate loading screens or anything, like the drug pickups. They're already conveniently on pallets, so it's easy enough. Just a traversal challenge to figure out how to get where they are. And then nothing but profit for your drug-dealing empire. The more fun one of these are the areas with some kind of surveillance van hiding in them. And that requires just enough deduction and exploration that's actually kind of clever.
You done fucked up.
And finally, there's the take out the gang members in this area that was in previous games. There are also the hidden history areas, which have different plaques containing audio logs describing the history of Santa Ileso, including the Red Faction Memorial Park, which is a lot of fun.
This is not appropriate.
Did you know? The Altor Corporation hired an elite squad of mercenaries to suppress the Red Faction uprising. On May 22nd, 2001, they opened fire on a gathering of unarmed workers.
Another point of little narrative dissonance is the generally pretty high amount of cash you're raking in, even from the opening mission. You're supposed to be part of a group of broke 20-somethings, but also you've got thousands of dollars on you at all times. Really, except for a brief third act moment, the whole game is like if the money-raking good times from Goodfellas didn't turn sour. So let's take a look at the gangs. Los Panteros are the vaguely Latino gang, they wear Ronald McDonald color scheme, and their gang is mostly car-related with big monster trucks and muscle cars. Their big brutes have a Terminator 2 style minigun, and your roommate Nina starts off working for them. Kevin, meanwhile, works for the Idols, who are the super rich tech-focused ones with the Daft Punk helmets and lots of neon and purple. Their brutes are cool roller skate people with yo-yos, so you know they mean business. And the final faction, which you started with, is Marshall, who have military-grade weapons and body armor with crazy ninja guys as their elite units. Some kind of cyber cop, I guess. To build up your criminal empire through activities at these story missions, you also get a cute mechanic of taking photos of landmarks and statuary around the city and 3D printing them into decor for your base. Something I love, but I found just wasn't implemented very well. Took plenty of photos of things, but the two main daises that flank the entrance to the church only have had a couple of options, and I feel like I did most of the available photographs in the city. At this point, the game gates the next story missions behind finishing criminal enterprises, and getting the first one out of the way is a weirdly long process.
Nice.
The first business is Jim Rob's Garages, and he's got a series of cars for you to find via the chop shop mechanic from previous games. But you wouldn't know this. The game has asked you to complete a criminal enterprise, and if you hover the cursor over Jim Rob's, you can see that 0 out of 11 activities are done. So you head over to the garage, and there's no Jim Rob. I searched everywhere when I first played this in 2023, and I did so again replaying in 2025 on the PS5. The quest giver is so hidden that I literally just walked by him on my latest playthrough. Jim Rob is just hanging out behind the garage by the lamppost.
Hey, JR, if we're short on parts, why don't we just steal them?
They have a gang now. But how do they get new recruits? This is when the boss learns about the Boot Hill, this game's take on the Professor Genki segments from Saints Row III. Professor Genki's super ethical reality climax was a high-energy game show where you murder your way through a pack of furry assailants in a maze of tight indoor corridors. It was one of the highlights for that great game, manic, zany, with actually entertaining commentary from Mike Carlucci and WWE legend Rob Van Dam.
Has crossed the line!
Boot Hill Murder Circus is more a Dia de los Muertos inspired, takes on a purple, green, and red nightmarescape, with a similar gameplay mechanic but a wider open world, and weapons that spawn from caskets. It's okay, but weirdly brief and just not quite as fun as Professor Genki's show. But it does have people in cheap fursuits and hot dog costumes, so that's something. You do have the option of climbing into a turret to handle the final waves, which leads me to a question. Are turret sequences fun, or bad. I recently played Just Cause 2 as a bit for the PS3 4x3 video. Amazing fun, watch it today, tell your friends. And sometimes when you get swarmed by the bad guys, and there just so happens to be a big glowing turret over there in the corner, it's actually a pretty darn good time to climb on in and do some people shootings. Same with this game. I told you before about how much I enjoy the simple fun of the riding shotgun escort missions, which are basically a turret sequence. They were pretty maligned back in the 360 era, but I feel like trying it now, especially when it's an optional choice in a fight or a breezy activity you don't have to do. It's good. I'm not a turret apologist per se. I know there were some very long, very boring turret sequences back in the day, but I think we can have a little turreting as a treat. After you succeed in mowing down dozens of Boot Hill folks, the results are in.
Jesus Christ. So that's what being good at murder means.
No. Seeing it on a leaderboard really puts things in perspective.
Should we be scared or reassured?
Why not both? Eli, mute your fucking phone.
Oh, yeah. Holy shit. Holy shit. These just keep coming in.
Who are they from?
People who are watching. They want to learn from the master.
You know what that means.
We got recruits?
We got recruits.
We got recruits!
Embarrassing admission? I didn't realize the glowing purple objects you find throughout the world are also photographable collectibles until literally the night before I wrote this.
Get on foot.
Eli is also embarrassed, but he needs help with the dust moot.
Do mine eyes deceive me? What brings Elijah the Wise to the land of tapeworm? Seek ye to join with the great worm?
Nay, I am here on behalf of House Duststone.
Lies. We know thou art houseless.
Duststone shall welcome us with open arms, once we torch thy beacon.
Yeah, on guard, shitlords!
A post-apocalyptic LARPing conference. These cosplay LARP missions take up a weird amount of the story progression of Saints Row 2022, and they're just maybe not as good as the amount of time devoted to them. I do like the weird non-lethal weapons you're supplied, the cardboard armor is cute, and the goofy play acting of the takedowns is a lot of fun, but there are a couple of hours of this and it goes on too long. The best of this series of missions is that your rival is your ex-boss Gwen, so it's always fun to get to annoy her again.
This is Gwendolyn Firebird of House Phoenix. I congratulate you on your victory.
Well said.
I propose an alliance. Join our siege of Fort Thunderpump, and we shall crush the Dust King between us.
Yeah, sorry, Gwen. No can do.
What? Who the fuck is this?
Oh, come on. It hasn't been that long, has it?
You! God damn it! Fuck with my job all you want, but stay out of my game!
This is so worth it.
Oh, and we can't forget the dress-up portion of this game. There's a variety of clothing stores around this world and some DLC options. Now my goal for my beefy avatar is, of course, a variety of wrestling outfits or other snug gear. And previous games have been a little hit or miss when it comes to stuff I'd enjoy wearing. The questionably named sporting goods store, the Swole Hole, does have some great tights, and lady swimsuits, at least. And one of the DLC packs I somehow got a hold of, I haven't spent any money on the DLC for this game, I swear, so it's whatever the game came with when I bought it, has a fun double zentai with a swoopy v-neck that I quite like. I think having a variety of small clothing vendors around the city is a really good idea. It gives the game more variety than having the same 3 or 4 clothing stores, with the same inventory, copied and pasted around the city.
Not the twisted cream!
That's creme.
Oh, creme, not creme.
I don't like it, Eli.
Yeah, no doubt. This fucker's hogging all the sloss.
I'm talking about what we're paying the crew.
With the mission Frontier, you're confronted with the question, how are we going to pay off all these recruits? Nina realizes you can rob a train. There's a big old money train coming into town.
What? We rob a bank?
No. We rob a train.
I don't know where this is going, but it sounds like my kind of stupid.
Sergio, her old boss, also wanted to hit it. You're going to need an expert if you want to do this. And you, the boss, take a wild swing as to who to hire.
So, it's a tough job. Let's get some extra muscle. A top-tier murder machine to help me out.
You have someone in mind?
I do. Someone I met during my stint at Marshall. It'll be a tough sell, but I bet we can persuade him.
Cool, let's give him a call.
Can't do that.
Why?
He's being detained in a privately owned prison called the Frontier.
You want to break out the Nawali, don't you?
The Nawali? You know, that guy you fought on top of the VTOL with. Sure, he's in jail, but that's a solvable problem. Getting through the prison is somehow secretly a stealth level, one that I failed many times.
Can't talk. The brass has me running errands.
Take security break out! Implement lockdown!
Many times.
Intruder alert! Sound the alarms!
This starts a little story thread that runs to the end, where your boss deeply wants the Nawali to like him.
Figured you could use a good meal. Okay. Good's a little generous. Alright, it's a lot generous. But I'm willing to bet it's better than what they serve you in the Frontier.
I appreciate it. And my freedom. Even if you're the one who put me there.
Oh, shit. Is this gonna be a problem?
I know what it feels like to be judged for following orders.
Sounds like a hell of a story.
It is.
You want to tell me?
We're not friends.
You decide to make a simple donut run, but things don't go great after you patiently wait in line.
Holy cow, it's you! Oh, Mama, it's my lucky day!
The fuck?
What?
It turns out there's a wanted app, and you've got a price on your head. Makes sense. Fortunately, Kevin knows the guys who started the wanted app. In an actually discussing homosexuality moment, Kevin says he met them on the wanted app back when it was a dating app, and they had a really special weekend together. With the both of them. Thumbs up!
I need a favor. My friend ended up on your wanted app and needs to get taken off.
Oh, I'm sorry. We never curate user content on the wanted app. Corporate policy!
Yeah? How about I put you two jokers on the app?
Wait, what?
Got more users incoming.
Sadly, Hank and Claude don't want to amend user policy until the boss decides to use the app to take a hit out on them both. Oh, then suddenly your arbitrary app rules are malleable. I see how it is. You protect them from a few waves of wannabe assassins as they try their best to hack their own database. Your boss introduces Nawali to everyone, but he's still not wanting to socialize.
So, shall we plan the heist?
No.
I thought you called me here because you wanted to prepare for the robbery.
Correct.
So we are planning the heist?
No.
Okay, I must admit, I'm confused. What are we doing?
Team building.
In a change of course, your boss wants to do some good team building, something Nawali is a bit resistant to. You've got a lovely RV as your roaming base, and then agree to do some beautiful mural painting. The Los Panteros disagree with the idea, so you do have a tiny bit of murdering to do, but that's okay.
Done!
Damn, Nina. Another masterpiece.
Next stop, El Bar Visual for some karaoke. Unfortunately, some marshal security shows up, and the next thing you know, the Robocops arrive on their hover bikes.
Have to fight our way out.
Damn it. This is not how this was supposed to go.
Kevin decides to change his ideal hangout to hover bikes on the lake, but he did forget that the lake is one of those idle hangouts, so even more murders ensue.
Too easy.
In the end, you have to defend your secret tomb base from all three forces in a big ol' shootout.
Let's go fuck them up!
Turns out the Nawali's exterior softens just a little from the team building exercise in an aw moment.
I think that's crazy.
Hey, when you're dealing with the Aztec cartel, it's best not to ask why and just go with it. It's getting late. I should probably get going. Thanks for dinner, Kev. It was great.
Thanks, man. The marinade does all the work.
You're too modest.
Drive safe.
Thank you. And please, make Kev wear a shirt.
I'll see what I can do.
Not gonna fucking happen.
For the mission Body of Evidence, not the sexy Madonna thriller.
There weren't rope burns. She had him handcuffed.
Do you think I killed him?
That's a question I never ask my clients.
There's
There's nothing wrong with admitting that you want me, Frank.
What did she do to you, Frank? How did you get those marks on your chest? What are they? Bites?
Wish me luck.
You have to rescue Jim Rob from the clutches of the police with Kevin at the Lancelot Casino in a good riff on the Excalibur in Vegas. Another good one, the coolest, but now kind of rundown, Hotel Luxor. The pyramid one is called the Aztec, and is a different kind of pyramid. In my playthrough, this random moment of Final Destinationing happened, and I couldn't be happier.
That's some fine shooting.
I'm gonna get you!
Deny!
Frankly, that sort of stuff is why I love the non-scripted, system-driven moments of open-world games so much. Anyway, JR is okay, but you need to take care of his paperwork at a storage locker facility while the cops swarm the area. The leader of the gang Nina is in, Los Panteros, is Sergio. He's a big, beefy, bearded dude, but he's not romanceable. And given the amount of trouble your boss has caused him, it probably wouldn't work out long-term anyway. To stop Sergio from having the resources he needs to fight the train, you have to take out the Panteros base, the Forge, and in doing so also end up taking out Sergio's own personal monster truck.
What the fuck are you doing, Nina? Esto es por ti, mamá.
I'm not quite sure if "this forge can make anything" bit that Nina describes it as is a sly reference to Red Faction's forge, but it could be. Finally, the big train heist that this game has been building up to. I have noticed that building up to big train heists is something that a bunch of games have done, everything from Borderlands 2 to Red Dead Redemption 2. Train heists just make good act-ending set pieces, I guess.
Here we go.
Before setting out on the heist, the boss gives the Nawali one of the depression knives they bought after being fired. So you've got both the martial troops and Los Panteros beefy folks to contend with as you make your way through the train car, one at a time.
Got the Nawali!
Heading to you.
But where did the Nawali go? Is he gonna ditch you? Betray you? Sergio gets the drop on you, literally from a helicopter, but in swings the Nawali to quickly stab Sergio in the heart, depriving your boss of the boss battle that they so craved. Fortunately, as you make your way to the end of the train, there's a tank on board, which is a lot of fun. Get to the money car, but the exploding train folds in on itself, and you jump off, saved by the Nawali on a flying Marshall jet bike. I do like how vaguely homo-romantic it is if you've got a dude boss. Finally, you and the Nawali part on good terms, and he thanks you for the knife you got him. Aww.
Thanks for your help.
Thanks for the knife.
Think about what I said.
I will. And if you guys need anything, just call.
He was a nice guy. Sad to see him go.
He carved out Sergio's heart.
Okay. He was an intense guy. Sad to see him go. Okay. We got the name, we got the space, we got the logo, we got the employees.
And we got the fucking money.
Yeah! Which means there's one thing left to do. How do we make a statement?
Well, we just robbed a money train and killed Sergio in a particularly horrific fashion.
Oh, so you ripped out Sergio's heart.
I was there for moral support.
It doesn't matter.
Kevin suggests we could finally go get that codex back from the idols, under their boathouse. Everyone assures you that it's going to be easy. This means, of course, it won't be. Sadly, the codex you do find is yet another fake, and of course a bomb.
Fake. And a bomb.
This means that things now have to be on a yacht. Kevin suggests using ramps to get on the yacht, which I managed to screw up several times.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Bail, jump!
Where are they?
It's a long getaway-style fight through the yacht, which is again trapped with the bomb. So the boss figures, why not return to sender, which will explode the boat. But sadly, the idols corner you as you wait for a helicopter. Also sadly, the missile strike destroys the helicopter, as missile strikes are wont to do, and now you're up against the best of the idols. 30 seconds or so later, and yep, they're pretty much all dead.
We should probably get out of here before our bomb blows up.
Good call.
Finally, a nice run through the exploding yacht to DMX's Party Up.
Let's grab that speedboat. Shove the codex in the watertight compartment. I'll drive.
Whoa, things got a little crazy over there.
One rousing speech later, it looks like all the gangs are taken care of. Time to set up that party that gets you killed during that flash forward at the beginning. Yay!
Who messes with the Saints? No one! You're goddamn right, no one. The Saints aren't a flash in the pan. We're here to stay.
But before you can set up the party, there's a hitch. Marshall's lawyers come to the church and say that the Saints are wholly owned by Marshall Industries, since you signed a non-compete clause and are now competing with him. After some well-timed casual murder, you gotta head to Marshall HQ. The boss now really wants to kill Atticus Marshall. In the head office, there's no Marshall, there's Myra.
You son of a bitch! Wait, Myra Starr?
Didn't take you long to get up here. You are a plucky one.
Where's Atticus?
Oh, he turned tail and flew away the second you entered the lobby. I told him this whole Saints business would bite us in the ass, but he never listens.
Then give us back the Saints.
As chair of the board, I could. Only problem is Atticus holds that title. That man has been a bee in my bonnet for a long time. How about we help each other out?
Fine. Tell me where he is and I'll kill him.
Now, not so fast. You kill Atticus and his seat on the board will pass to his next of kin, who won't help you.
Well, then I'll kill them too.
And then their kin, and then theirs. The Marshall family is large and ornery. They'll never help you. But you help me vote him off the board, and I'll scratch your back real good.
So, how do we do that?
If you make Atticus look bad enough, our company's stock price will tank. Shareholders will panic, and the board will have no choice but to change leadership. That's when I'll take over and give the Saints back to you.
All right, you got yourself a deal.
The board member whose life you saved back when you were working for Marshall. Both come to the conclusion that life would be simpler without Atticus. You start off in the mission severance package by destroying Marshall property to lower stock values. Fortunately, there's a tank you can hijack, and the new plan comes into effect. With Myra's codes, you can control that tank and then ransack public property and make it look like the Marshall AI tanks have gone haywire. The stock price is rallied by the owner of the Smelters team, so you move the tank over towards the stadium.
Taking out that Smelter statue will turn all the fans against Marshall.
That's for hijacking our stock scam.
Good. Paulson will back off now. Stock should go back down. What the hell do you think you're doing?
You're just in time for the vote.
You think you can fire me? My family built this business. My name is on the goddamn building!
Our stock price is rock bottom, and our shareholders want your head.
It's the Saints! They exposed the frontier. They robbed my train. They ruined my good name!
We've done the risk assessment, and you are a liability.
Bullshit! This company's nothing without me!
The motion is to terminate Atticus Marshall and appoint me chair of the board. All in favor?
All opposed? You have a tie. Now what are you gonna do?
Let's ask the tiebreaker.
Myra holds a dynasty-style meeting and surprise, you, the boss, are on the board now.
I'm a very direct woman. If I do not get that approval, and please understand that I have controlling interest in Denver Carrington, I shall fire you all on the spot and replace you with a board that will approve of the merger.
Atticus Marshall, you are fired.
Get your hands off me! You haven't heard the last of Atticus Marshall!
Yes, I'm sure we'll hear you hollering all the way down to the lobby.
There's a fun later mission called Art Appreciation. Nina is thinking of buying 3 Nozomi Fisher pieces, which are sheet metal welded over steel frames. The first piece, the lady won't sell because she's holding onto it to spite her husband. The boss's solution? Steal it. Duh.
Not how I expected my first big art purchase to go.
So you tow it back to the church. The second piece? It's a steel cactus and the owner is using it to hang swimsuits. The solution? Stealing! This one's a bit fragile, but you get to tow it back to the church. The third one was actually previously stolen by the sorority sisters, so really no harm in stealing that back.
This is really fragile. Try not to destroy it on the way home, okay?
We interrupt your broadcast with this breaking news. The art thieves terrorizing Monte Vista have been spotted fleeing the area with a large metal cow in tow.
And, let's try to avoid attracting police attention.
La voz del Rancho Providencia.
We built this together.
Thanks for getting shot, Eli.
Should we go in?
Hey, you guys go. I just want to take a minute out here.
Heard there's a party.
Hey! It's good to see you, man.
I've been thinking a lot about what you said. About the Saints. I've been alone for a long time. I always viewed friends as a liability, a weakness. But I was wrong. Seeing you with Kev, Nina, Eli, they really make you stronger.
Yeah, they really do.
I want to know what that feels like.
Well, let's... Oh! Why?
At the deadly party, the Nawali decides that the boss was right about having friends, and having the kind of life the boss has, so he stabs the boss and buries them alive.
You could not even protect yourself. How would you ever protect your friends if someone like me came along, huh? This is for the best. Do not worry. I'll keep our friends safe.
You awaken on an astral plane and walk past all your recent memories. It's very Final Fantasy VII Wheelchair Cloud falls in the live stream, coming soon to Final Fantasy VII Reunion. There's a fun sequence where you walk through the Catan Carcassonne style game with meeples that look just like your gang leader friends. Things get more nightmarish as you walk through your own twisted self-doubts. Now it would be great if the game went full Final Fantasy VII all the way and suddenly you remember you were never the boss the whole time, and you were actually just a low-level Saints Row gang member. But maybe it was going to be revealed in Saints Row 2022 Rebirth, or Reload, or Restyle, or Remax. The Nawali blocks the path out of the afterlife.
What? Why can't I move?
Because you can't do anything right. You ruin everything. That's why you needed me.
But one voice calls you back beyond the grave. The plaintive meows of Snickerdoodle. The bride style, you crawl out of your own grave and go through your messages.
Everything smells amazing, Kev.
You know what would make it smell even better?
Let me guess. Pancakes.
You know it.
Hey, look who's home.
The Nawali has gone crazy and kidnapped your friends to play out your life, single white female style. If you don't understand that reference, you could say Beyonce's Obsessed style. That's only 16 years old. That's new. After grabbing supplies from your safe house, the Nawali suggests you finish it where it began, the saloon at the Silver Gulch. It's a trap, but you can't trap the boss. He kills enough of Nawali's suddenly appearing henchmen to make one survivor finally talk.
Dude, I've had a long fucking day. Can we please be reasonable people?
I can't...
You're gonna say you can't tell me because the Nawali will kill you, then I'll say, if you don't tell me, I'll kill you, and we're just gonna be right back to where we started, so let's just skip that part.
No, I was gonna say I can put the address in your phone.
Oh. Yeah, no, that'd be super helpful.
You mind unlocking it?
Whoops, sorry about that.
You're a fucking maniac.
Well, you know, I have a lot of practice and pent-up rage.
I hear that.
Parents?
Alimony. Anyway, secret bunker address is in there.
Thanks, man.
I'm George, by the way.
You're an alright guy, George. When you wake up, you should stop by the church. The Saints could use a guy with some common sense.
Oh!
Fortunately, that VTOL that crashed at the start of the game is still operational, and you make your way to the building on the old strip with the rotating restaurant. Get a real Lucky 38 feel from this one.
Don't worry, my friends. Things are going back to the way they were.
You guys okay?
We're fine.
Why is Kev wearing a shirt?
Oh, it's a lot. Look out! Don't you see? You were never meant to protect them.
You don't get it. They don't need my help. I need theirs.
All your friends combine together and start to defeat the Nawali, including Snickerdoodle. He does a bit of the Bioshock magic teleportation guy.
Everyone okay?
Feel good now.
I'll be better when I get this stupid shirt off.
You chasing off to the tippy top, it's morning, and the Nawali is in an attack helicopter. But fortunately, you played Resident Evil and GTA 3 before, and yep, there's a missile launcher. On the roof, you and the Nawali have a real old Westy meetup in the sunrise.
You ruined everything.
Now this time, I do like his cut-off villain monologue. And that's the end of the story. The credits open with a nice tribute to community manager Mike Watson, aka Idle Ninja, who was on his own time developing a Saints Row 2 update mod, even with terminal cancer. Also Joe Wells, their system engineer, both of which were honored in-game. The post Volition made in their memory was full of friends and family of the two sharing condolences, as well as aggro dudes demanding Volition finish Watson's patch, or laughing at how terrible the reboot is or will be. It doesn't make you a terrible human to want to have this patch finished, and I think that's a good community goal to work on. And genuinely, it's fine with me if you didn't enjoy this game, but it's the weird harassment of Volition, specifically the people that work there, who knew Mike and Joe in real life and worked with them for years, and to barge in and interrupt them honoring someone they work with, that's bad. Don't be one of those guys. That's my hot take, I guess. So, were the aggro dudes of YouTube right? Was this reboot terrible? Let's look at what this game did right, and what this game did wrong. For me, and specifically me, I don't know if this applies to you. The biggest thing I enjoyed about Saints Row 2022 was playing a character very similar in temperament to myself. The boss in the reboot is a delight, equal parts a total failure and a positive friend who wants the best for people they love, and who has a deep need for people to like them. This is relatable, especially if you make the character look like yourself, like I did. Having a game like this, a big budget drivey-shooty action game, let your lead have a moment where they wallow in the misery of being unemployed was so quiet and well done.
I want to eat my feelings.
And endeared me to the character and the game immediately. Of course, I don't have the actually murders people super violently all the time side to myself that the boss does, and sometimes that can be pretty shocking when you're out there seeing yourself in the game. The relationship between the boss and the Nawali is some deft writing too. Aggressively trying to make someone like you, who is not used to that sort of attention, suddenly lashing out in weird ways is something that, hey, can actually happen in real life too. There's several moments of genuine heart between the cast, in ways that don't seem forced. They all screw up in equal measure, including yourself, but they're friends and continue to support each other. The roommates/Saints bosses are all pleasant people, with Eli getting the lion's share of characterization, though Nina has a few moments of introspection. One of the better side missions is just going out and trying to buy pieces of art with Nina, a mission that does a good job of very much incorporating story and gameplay at the same time. Maybe I just like a game that encourages you to be gay and do crimes. But you know what is unconditionally great? Driving in this game. The Saints Row games have always had pretty easygoing car physics, but this one adds some very overpowered car combat mechanics inspired perhaps from the slams you could do in The Wheelman. Handbrake turns are now Ridge Racer ridiculous, which really helps with police pursuits and, you know, just style. The other vehicles are also way too much fun. From the big old tanks to anything that's towing something using its payload as a destructive pendulum. Another fun bit that might seem like a glitch at first, if you run over a fire hydrant, your car gets launched into the air. Makes me wonder if this was originally a bug, but the devs liked it so much they kept it in the game. It's not over the top in terms of physics destruction, but as a 2022 game, there's definitely tons of destructible objects, and a couple of missions even have Half-Life style platforms you can take out. You can't damage most buildings, but you sure can damage the heck out of anything that's not nailed down. This makes explosions and combat pretty fun.
Look at all this. We're taking care of that.
Music has always been a big part of the Saints Row series, and this one does have a variety of radio stations from Dos Ochos, which has older Mexican and Spanish classics, Tumbleweed Radio, which is country, El Latido, which is current Spanish language pop, but really, why have all these stations when all you need is Outrun, which is just synthwave, a perfect match to the mood and lighting of this game. Mostly left on there are Santo Public Radio, which is classical orchestral music. Though once again, it's mostly just the same classical songs you hear in every game, not like deep dives or full concertos or anything. I wish more games would have, like, a full opera or a symphony instead of pop clips of classical music.
Get out of here!
Speaking of mood and lighting in this game, it looks great, but with a big old asterisk and citation needed. I'll get more into the qualifiers of this statement in Part 9, what version should you play, but every platform has fantastic use of HDR, something I just love in games. The lights of the strip and the tail lights of your car, as well as explosions, all pop with the extended range of brightness HDR gets you, and the game was designed for this. You've also got great materials, from the clothing to the plastic and metals of the car. Everything looks great. I love details like your car getting increasingly dirty as you drive through the desert with a matte coating of sand and dirt. Or the option, as you can see here on PS5, of permanently coating your character in sweat/oil, giving them a real goopy pro wrestler look. I also like the variety of environments, all of which are nothing like previous Saints Row games, or most GTA games except for San Andreas. You got plenty of off-roading you can do out in the desert, as well as Old Town Santo Alesso, and the new sparkling Santo Alesso, and sprawling mini-malls and older buildings surrounding the course. As I was recording multiple versions and trying out different fashions on my boss, I realized one more great thing about a game where you can make someone who kinda looks like yourself. You can try out different fashions and see how they look on you. It turns out that, hey, I can't pull off the Carhartt toque and neon framed sunglasses look very well. Gives me a real how do you do fellow kids look. There's something I mentioned in my review of Saints Row the Third as well. This is a game where you can play as a plus-size fellow, where their appearance isn't a joke, and they can be as much of an action hero as anyone else in the game. Also, you can be a big guy and your clothes and accessories aren't constantly clipping through themselves, something that other games can't quite handle so well. Soul Calibur, I'm looking at you. Otherwise though, getting to play through a whole big budget adventure as a glamorous bearded beefy boy in whatever gear you want is, as always, revelatory. Okay, now over to what the game does wrong. Oh crap! I forgot to mention one great thing about the Saints Row series in general, and it works well here. The co-op is bonkers. Here's me playing with my podcast buddy and famous tall person Jim Banks. You do have a nice rack, for sure. I gave myself realistic rack for me.
Look, John, look! Watch,
oh,
watch.
Yeah. Oh, wait, sorry. What are you doing?
Jacking off!
Yeah?
Yeah!
Once again, Jim, you are confusing yourself with Rahul Kohli, who made a very accurate version of himself, except that it looks just like Rahul Kohli with big mommy milkers. The co-op plays great, and isn't precious about if one of you has completed one mission or not. Plus, you can play silly pranks on the other player.
Oh, you stepped on her.
Yeah.
Oh no, you pranked me!
What did I do?
I don't know, but I'm upside down now.
For a game I really like, there's still plenty on the negative side to talk about. The vehicle selection seems less fun than the early games. Let's start with Saints Row the Third. For Saints Row 1 and 2, there's a hefty selection of 90s crap boxes. Okay, that's not entirely fair. The Chrysler Dynasty wasn't totally a crap box, and I genuinely like the 90s Grand Prix in both forms. But what I'm saying is, there is an interesting selection of vehicles, referencing models that don't show up in a lot of games with cars, like racing games or open world games. Just a fun selection of deep cuts and weird choices of cheap cars actual people would drive. There's even a Jetta riff too. Another great game for this is State of Decay 2, whose faux Jettas and Silverados are almost lawsuit fodder. This one has some good cars, like an 80s Supra-alike and a Miata-style coupe, but anytime anyone makes an open-world drivey-shooty game, I'm gonna whine about wanting to have more variety in vehicles. I know this means development time and budget increases for an already hefty $100 million game that wasn't complete on release. And it doesn't matter when it comes to story and gameplay. It's gonna be impossible for pretty much any developer now to compete with the vast amount of vehicles in, say, GTA 4, or especially GTA 5, which has been adding new cars into both the main story mode and online mode for 12 years now. An actual problem with the game: poor signposting. This is especially apparent in the first business you're offered, as I explained before. To progress through the Jim Rob business, you have to talk to Jim Rob, who is randomly hidden in the back lot with no tooltips or anything noting he's there. Progressing with this business is pretty much required to finish the game, so it seems weird even if you have the business activity selected, it just leads you to the front of the shop and not the quest giver guy. This is the same with travel points, where it leads you to a random point to photograph the fast travel unlock, where even if you look all around with the camera, you actually can't photograph the thing you need. It's weird. It turns out you need to be at a very specific angle to get the shot. Also, the tooltips for side activities randomly seem to show up or not. I've definitely had to restart the wingsuit activity due to just not having the controls show up on screen, and that activity in particular has some weird button usage. Then there's modern rendering cruft. So Saints Row is a relatively modern PC game, right? This means that it benefits from a lot of things. You can use DLSS to bump up performance without taking too big of a resolution hit. Screen space ambient occlusion, even with ray tracing, allows for objects, buildings, and characters to settle better into the scene more realistically. With global illumination, the light and color balance of real life helps light a scene more convincingly without having to do it by hand. And screen space reflections mean that fairly convincing reflections on shiny surfaces can be generated without taxing your graphics card too much. And these are all good things, sure, but some stuff just straight up looks bad. Especially for my big bugaboo for this game. The water reflections. Now, I'm not a game programmer, and I can't tell you exactly what's wrong here. From watching far too many hours of Digital Foundry videos, I can hazard a guess that the screen space reflections don't have anything to fall back to when you're walking in front of water, so the default water texture surrounds your character like a weird outline, and it just doesn't look very good. Screen space reflections are generated from what you see on screen, but can be flipped and blended with some other effects. When it's a sharp reflection like on water, the technique can have issues around the edges of the screen or when objects in the foreground block the view, or occluded in Digital Foundry speak. Check out how Saints Row the 3rd's remaster handles water, or say Saints Row the 1st on 360. That's, I think, a cube map, basically an inverted, more basic map of the city projected as a full reflection onto the water. It's a simple effect, but I'd say it works better than the screen space stuff in this game for big bodies of water. However, there are plenty of other games that use screen space reflections with backups like a cube map to fall back on when it's occluded, like here. Wait. This is Rage Racing. Those are rage-raced reflections. There's a couple other modern graphic techniques that can, in my humble view, as a smart and amazing and beefy and handsome games-liking person, make things look worse. If you're running on lower power hardware and want stuff to, say, run at 60 frames per second, it's basically rendering an HD or 4K image at a much lower resolution, like 720 or 480p, and then using machine learning trained on video games to fill in the blanks. Unlike what snake oil selling tech bros call AI, DLSS trains on owned or licensed data, no stealing involved. Anyway, depending on how much of what you see on screen is using that machine learning to fill in the blanks, the fuzzier and weirder and chunkier everything's going to look. But that depends on the size of the screen you're watching it on, your propensity to find weird artifacts on video, like streaks or trails or big chunky blocks of solid colors, bad. Personally, I leave it on quality and almost never notice any issues. There's TAA, a form of anti-aliasing that makes objects look smoother and less pixelated, especially things like chain link fences and power lines. TAA uses previous frames' data to accomplish this, which is less taxing on your graphics card, but can generate weird trails and glitches around your character, and it's on by default, and on all the time on consoles. I genuinely don't like the look of TAA. It makes everything look a little soft, out of focus, and I find the trails around moving your character distracting. I do, however, like motion blur as a sort of faux camera effect. It can make stuff look cinematic and natural, and that's a whole other effect than TAA. A lot of PC players in particular hate motion blur though, so feel free to turn it off if you're in that camp. Another issue? There's no real point where you discover why the friend gang are a friend gang in the first place, something that I feel like would have helped cement the relationship and rooting out their connection and personality together. They're all pleasant people and fine to hang out with, but the game really could have used more stuff like Eli's books on tape or Nina's art theft mission that add more to their characters. Last thing, it feels short, which I'd say in some ways isn't a bad thing. I like that I could finish this one without feeling like I'm pulling teeth, but compared with the 3-act structure and narrative payoff of Saints Row the 3rd, it's lighter. However, I think a deeper dive into pitting Saints Row the 3rd Remastered versus Saints Row 2022 is in order. So let's do it. Volition, with Spirasoft leading the development, released a remaster of Saints Row the 3rd in 2020, and it's great. It's currently the highest rated game in my COW rankings. With releasing the best version of Saints Row III so soon before the reboot, you can easily compare both, and a lot of players on release said, hey, why make this terrible new reboot when you just made an incredible remake of the third? So here's the big question. What's a better game? Saints Row III or Saints Row 2022? It's one that I've been chewing on for the past couple of years, because I think both games have so much of what I like about open world games. Game writing, humor, and systems-driven gameplay to them. But for being in the same series, their tone is worlds apart. Frankly, to me, the Saints Row 2022 does a lot right. It starts with having a set of characters I like. I gotta admit, though I enjoyed the previous Saints Row games a lot, for the most part I didn't really like the main cast of characters the game focused on. Sure, there are fantastic moments like the sing-along in Saints Row III.
Early in the morning, rising to the street. Light me up that sleeper red and I strap my shoes on my feet.
Keith David as a vice president in Saints Row 4.
Listen, we've got enough clout right now for one major bill, not both. What do you want me to push forward? Do you want to be the president who cured cancer or the president who solved world hunger?
Zemos, the auto-tune pimp.
This is a rescue, right? This ain't some elaborate setup for a gangbang.
And I enjoyed Kinsey as a neurodivergent weirdo.
Yeah, look, I feel kind of weird having a conversation like this.
Totally agree. We should be using like that Navajo code dialect.
But it wasn't until Saints Row 4 that I felt they really explored these characters from a deeper perspective. Even then, I can't tell you a ton about them. While the gang in Saints Row 2022 could use more backstory themselves, they're still fun to be around, and, I guess, align more with the kind of people I'd hang out with in real life and enjoy being around. Except for the murder business. The main characters of Saints Row III feel more like hanging out with the Black Eyed Peas. I mean later Black Eyed Peas, with Fergie Ferg. And look, I love that song, but I do not want to hang out with Fergie, or any of Black Eyed Peas, even Taboo. Graphically, Saints Row III Remastered is a tour de force, very bold with high contrast, bright HDR lighting, and tons of effects. Saints Row 2022's visual design is subtler. If Santo Alesso is really trying to go for a Vegas aesthetic around the strip, there should have been way more neon, bright lights, and slick glass buildings. It should also be way, way busier. It really does feel more like Reno. That being said, Steelport and Stillwater weren't particularly memorable, and one part of town, for the most part, felt like the other. The one exception being the fun Chicago-style small detached houses in the third. I really do like the subtle visual effects in Saints Row 2022. The lighting especially is vibrant and realistic. I love the city once I started exploring it. It seems small, and it is, but it's got a lot of variety in its location. That being said, it's missing suburbia, which would have helped place it more in the southwestern mid-sized city milieu. That's French for place. Where Saints Row III really shines is in its activities. Frankly, there's no mayhem mode in Saints Row 2022, and that's a shame. Probably my favorite moments in the third are the mayhem challenges, from the on-foot ones with grenades and rocket launchers to the ones in tanks. And 2022 even has tanks. Why not a tank activity? Was it locked behind a business I never got? And while I'm always for trying something new, Boot Hill in 2022 can't hold a candle to Professor Genki's super ethical reality climax.
These warrior wolves are just lambs to the slaughter here at Boot Hill.
It's hard to compete with the over-the-top set-piece insanity of Saints Row III. Maybe the fourth does, though. The bank vault battle, where it's destroying high-rises, is a great way to start the show, and then going through the whole plane-to-plane skydiving sequence.
I'm not gonna lie. For a minute, I didn't think you'd make it in time.
That makes two of us.
The fighting on top of that VTOL was a fun start, too. It feels more on a limited scale than the third opening. What impressed with the third wasn't just the flashy start, but that it continued with these moments throughout the game, from rescuing Shondi to the tune of Holding Out for a Hero to the penthouse shootout to Kanye's Power, were brilliant moments.
I've got to start thinking through these plans.
As well as the sheer bizarre novelty of the Decker's Die mission, which was unlike anything I'd played before back in 2011. The game treads the line between meme humor and 2010's epic baconness well, where it still feels like it's coming up with new ideas instead of rehashing tired memes and nostalgia like Kung Fury.
Permit denied.
Saints Row III starts at 11 and stays there.
And most of the amps go up to 10.
Exactly.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
The third is great, but also feels like you're smashing action figures together. Which, hey, who hasn't smashed action figures together? That holding out for a hero scene really underlines what the third is going for with tone. It's all about combining a manic drive towards the finale of the game with an over-the-top Steinman track and Bonnie Tyler's raspy vocals. The Reboot, after its high-energy opening, has a 2-minute drive from work through the desert mesas of the city, while listening to A Tribe Called Quest's El Segundo. In a moment of quiet thoughtfulness, mixed with phone calls setting up the boss's relationships with his roommates.
Let's start with this. Where were you going? Who were you going with? Left my wallet in El Segundo. Left my wallet in El Segundo. Left my wallet in El Segundo. I gotta get it, I got to get it. I left my wallet in El Segundo. Left my wallet in El Segundo. Left my wallet in El Segundo. I gotta get it, I got to get it. My mother went away for a month.
Reminds me a bit of crossing through into Mexico and Red Dead Redemption, all to the tune of that Jose Gonzalez song. That one pushes it even more into the wistful and pensive mode. Saints Row the Third has no moments like this, because it's not that kind of girl.
I don't have a sugar daddy, sweetheart. Everything that I've had, I've worked for. And I worked for to get, and I've built myself. So I need you to know that 100%. I don't have a sugar daddy. I've never had a sugar daddy. If I wanted a sugar daddy, yes, I probably could go out and get one because I am what? Sickening. You could never have a sugar daddy because you are not that kind of girl. Baby, everything I've had, I've worked for, and I've gotten myself. I built myself from the ground up.
Not that kind of game, I mean. Game. You certainly can and do get around the city by car in Saints Row the Third, but it never feels particularly engaging, and half the time you're in wilder and more deadly vehicles anyways. You get the sense they weren't interested in the car combat side of things, and by Saints Row 4, you are genuinely playing the game wrong if you're sticking to cars throughout most of it. The car controls are far better in Saints Row 2022, and the combat feels satisfying. The only part I don't think works quite as well is mapping the special abilities. That never works right, and not having a grenade button is a bit of a wash. I like that you don't have to keep tabs on your grenade supply and constantly have to buy more, but on the other hand, having them on a timer can be frustrating when you really could use a splodey. Mapping the special attacks to a charging timer makes more sense. It was probably a bit too overpowered in the third, and it makes it feel more special as a special that you can build up to. But the third making these melee takedowns as silly wrestle fun and not terrifying manhunt murder is a better call. The hyper-violence maybe feels a little out of place. Again, you can turn this off. Choosing between the two is tough. I love each experience for different reasons. I think personally, the writing connects with me more in 2022, which will always get me suckered into an experience. But these games, they're so close. And it's hard to make the call. Without math, that is. Humor is a tough thing to rate and review, because what I like might not be what you like.
Okay, Bernie, are you ready to play? I'm ready. Okay, the clock is gonna start with your first bid.
Okay, $1.
Higher.
$2.
Higher.
$3.
Higher.
$4.
Higher.
$5.
Higher.
$6.
Much higher.
$10 million.
Okay, lower now, lower.
$7.
Higher.
$12.50.
Much higher.
$10 million.
Lower.
I don't understand this game.
To put it in terms of Canadian comedy, I'm more of a radio-free vestibule guy or a kids in the hall guy.
I need more sausages!
Okay.
I like sausages!
And a Letterkenny guy.
Well, not to be impolite, but this gal suggested that maybe I should have some attentions paid to my butthole.
Or a Trailer Park Boys guy.
Oh, nice decimals. I know, look at my spacesuit, too.
Right on. Can I put it on the launch pad there, Commander?
All right.
Oh, are you sure we gotta play space here? Like, this is kind of
Come on, Ricky, look at this. This is awesome. Mission Control, this is Commander Bubbles.
And that doesn't mean Letterkenny or Trailer Park Boys are bad, and frankly, I'm okay going on record and stating that if Squirrely Dan wants to make out with me, I would very much enjoy this. However, I feel like me starting to flirt with K. Trevor Wilson by saying that I don't enjoy Letterkenny may kill any makeout chances I once had. I also concede this means I can't say Red Green is awful, and the rage that builds up inside me anytime I see that fucking dweeb or that piece of garbage co-host in that sucking black hole of anti-comedy. I want to smash the television and, oh, you're Canadian, you must love Red Green. No, I do not. That show does not in any way reflect me or where I grew up or my values, and that kitsch rural Canadiana worst part of Smith & Smith that got spun off can go Sorry. My feelings towards Red Green are my own problem and not theirs or yours. So in the spirit of everything to do with humor being very personal and subjective, I'm going to say for the most part, yeah, I laughed out loud in moments in this game. I think that the post-firing bed montage is among my favorite parts of any of these open-world drivey-shooty crime games, simply because it's so relatable, but the sad digs at your character in the game instructions just work supremely well. I also find comfort and relatability in a lot of the ways the boss approaches the world, though specifically not the murdering part. I do not relate to that at all, I swear, but wanting the cold-blooded assassin to be friends with him, taking everyone out on a team-building exercise, and his unearned positivity about everything, this is a lot of fun. But is it haha funny? It feels more like a pleasant scenario rather than a bunch of laugh-a-minute gags. You know, like Schitt's Creek.
The Moira's Roses garden. So the garden is dedicated to a rose that Moira owns.
I don't think that there are enough apostrophes.
It's such a stark change of tone versus Saints Row the 3rd and 4, which had their roots in the very 2000s Jackass style of comedy. Scatological, a bit bro-y, everything is epic and badass and full of swag, but that doesn't mean it didn't land. As deliberately dumb and bro-y as the opening of Saints Row 4 is, with Keith David, not a character he plays as your vice president, and the ridiculously American cannon with which you shoot the invaders out of the sky, this all works because they nailed the tone. Even Kinsey being dragged off to space by bragging about her qualifications works, in spite of her brief heel turn. Saints Row 2022's humor is much quieter and grounded, and I think those are the moments of the writing that click best. I love that so many of the quests start in a very Simpsons fashion with a simple chore or excursion that goes increasingly wrong, with the results getting exponentially more out of control. It's a breath of fresh air from the labored sex puns of Grand Theft Auto, and there's not even a single joke about sex workers or homeless people that I can think of, so thumbs up. I mean, beating up people with a giant, well-animated dildo in the third was sort of funny, I guess, but as I've said before, there's that subtle veneer of bro-y sex revulsion to it that annoyed me. The businesses that you can buy throughout the game, too, offer fun characters to deal with and well-written in-quest dialogue, which can be tough to get right. The horrors which you subject yourself to in the insurance fraud game in particular have a great straight man reaction with Tamira. And in the main story, Gwen's increasing and unending frustration with you also works well as a comic foil. I don't know how well Kevin isn't wearing a shirt lands as an ongoing joke for the game. It's fine, but it feels like someone else's in-joke rather than a uproariously funny one.
No, seriously, this is perfect. The only way this could be better is if you put on a fucking shirt.
Dinner and a show, baby.
Oh, please.
Now here's everyone's favorite part of Cow. What version should you play? Normally there's a bunch of trade-offs and hemming and hawing over what one system can do over another, but in this case it's a modern game, and the Sony and Microsoft version seem to be pretty much similar based on the level of system you get it for. I was just going to make this video about the PC version, but I figured I should branch out and try the PS5 version, since it was on PS Plus as a free game thing. Then I also realized that means I could play it on PS4, so I dusted off my old PS4, booted it for the first time since 2022, and installed it there. And then, today, when I wrote this, because I'm very weak, I also picked it up on Series X, since it was on sale with all the DLC for 13 Canada bucks. And hey, Saints Row 1 and 2 are backwards compatible? Since when? Look, I'm bad with money. This channel is my last hope to pay off my debt, so please watch all the commercials. It turns out that starting with the PC version was the best way to get a good impression of this game. That's not always the case. Lately there have been some pretty not great PC ports that still haven't been fixed or optimized for the platform, particularly if Capcom and/or Denuvo are involved. Basically, Denuvo is an anti-cheat, anti-piracy service that Capcom keeps putting in its games for the first year or two, then eventually removes it because it makes the games run badly. But Saints Row 2022 is not a Capcom game, and hey, it runs pretty great on PC. Sure, you gotta futz with the settings, and the one rage racing option for ambient occlusion does drag it down to 70 to 80 frames per second at 3440 by 1440 with my RTX 3080. But even then, it looks and plays well and stable to boot. Of course, it also helped that I picked up the game a year after launch, meaning it had plenty of time to be patched and fixed. Swapping over to the PlayStation 5, which in my brain is still a brand new, super powerful console, and its performance mode seemed kinda chunky. It looked fine. I'm pretty much always going to choose a resolution reduction on console for smoother gameplay. However, when I started recording footage of the Series X version, it was quite smooth, to the point that I realized something was going wrong. These two games shouldn't be that different. This was due, I guess, to the PS5 getting the idea that it could display 120 frames per second when it's plugged into my desktop monitor, but my capture box can only do 60, so it was getting a funky signal. Turn off the 120 FPS option in the video output and there, it looks fine. Unfortunately, this is the first PlayStation 5 game I've played that has had a genuine crash to the PS5 dashboard. Not the fun kind of glitchy. Over on PlayStation 4, it doesn't look as visually reduced as I would have imagined. I mean, it's not amazing. It definitely isn't sticking to 30 frames per second, but it still looks and plays fine. Honestly, it reminds me of playing Saints Row the Third on Switch. If you haven't been able to move up to a PS5, this is a totally acceptable way to play through, though I wouldn't be surprised if it has the same stability issues down the line. Let's take a look at Saints Row 2022 running on both PS5 and Series X with the correct video settings for both. As you can see, there's occasional hitches, but it's pretty smooth. Things can get chunkier on both systems when it gets into combat sometimes. So, the console versions are fine. Though this one actually has a pretty great PC port, so if you've got a graphics card from the RTX 20s or better, you might as well give it a shot on there. Plus, it's always easy to find on sale.
You have 3 new messages.
Jeff Gerstmann's panning of the game, and the overall panning of the game with critics, had me stay away from Saints Row until it was cheap on the Epic Store, and I fully expected to dislike it, to the point where about half of my first playthrough was with the sound off as I was editing my podcast or watching some YouTube videos on a second monitor. I heard this game was broken and boring, especially from Gerstmann, so I went in expecting exactly that. But as you probably guessed from the what I liked segments, there's a lot I found to like in this game. That doesn't mean Jeff and the critics were wrong. Even the angry YouTube fellas aren't wrong. They didn't enjoy it, but I really did. Now when I get this feeling, I sometimes have to grill myself. Am I being deliberately iconoclastic because I want to have spicy, controversial takes? Am I treating it like some kind of weird broken baby bird because it led to the closure of a developer I really like? No. With that settled, let's give this game some scores. Graphics 4 Koobs. Now I know I gushed about many things I love graphically with the game, good use of HDR, fun animation, excellent physically based rendering, and it runs great on my machine. But I have to dock it a point off for its distractingly bad reflections and glut of graphic options that make the game into a smeary mess if you're not careful. Plus that TAA is really bad on console. Story 4 Koobs. There's so much here that I could go on about. Writing relatable and likable protagonists, a general move towards less punching down humor, definitely navigating how to make a game about a gang of psychopaths somehow being fun to hang out with, jokes that actually made me laugh, inspired writing for the side activities. I like that the central crux of the game is that the boss is too much of a people pleaser and this almost gets them and their friends killed. It's weird to combine brutal murder with leads who aren't complete assholes, but hey, I think it works. The only ding against it is the amount of time devoted to the LARPing section, something that doesn't really work from a comedy or drama perspective and takes up about a quarter of the game's story missions. Open world 4 Koobs. I love that this game takes place in the kind of city you don't see that much in games. A mid-sized desert city with a lot of history and with diverse environments from sand-swept mesas to old mining towns, a sparkling new Silicon Valley and university, and a Vegas-style downtown. And a great selection of activities, some old and some new. Downsides? Missing the mayhem activities. And the city itself could use better ways to visually differentiate its districts. Plus some very bad signposting when it comes to mission design, and not enough variations on cars. Still pretty fantastic though. On Foot, 5 Koobs. Pretty much perfect controls as a running and gunning open world game. It never gets snagged, the animations feel snappy, doesn't get bogged down turning and running. Combat is tuned towards running around killing stuff, with a finisher meter that regains your health every time you activate it, giving it a very different feel than the stop and pop cover-based shooting of GTA 4 and 5. Or the stealth takedowns of Watch_Dogs. Driving, 5 Koobs. Second only to the Driver series for great open-world driving controls. Sure, the drift could be a little more controllable, but the extra car combat commands are great. Physics is loose and silly, and getting out of car chases is a snap. Final score, 22 out of 25. I guess we could see this coming. I really like Saints Row the 3rd, and I really like Saints Row 2022. As with any time, I'm going to have to dip into the dark world of subjectivity to pick a winner, and for me it's a slight edge to Saints Row 2022. It's the Black Eyed Peas factor. If I gotta choose a gang to hang out with, it's not going to be the one with Taboo and Fergie. Alright, so that's number 1, Saints Row 2022, 22 out of 25 points. Number 2, Saints Row the 3rd Remastered, 22 out of 25 points. 3, Grand Theft Auto 3, 19 out of 25 points. 4, Mercenaries Playground Destruction, 19 out of 25 points. 5, The Getaway, 17 out of 25 points. 6, The Simpsons Hit and Run, 16 out of 25 points. And 7, Driv 3R, 12 out of 25 points. Thanks for watching this video all the way through to the end. These cow videos always take way more time than I think they will, so I appreciate your patience when I go full steam ahead on getting one of these out. They're fun to make, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. As always, a like and subscribe will go a long way to getting my videos out to more people. My lovely ping tuber was created by Borzilla. You can find him on Blue Sky as elchunkerino.bluesky.social, and is available for commissions if you want a beefy or non-beefy ping tuber of your own, or other art of the safe for work or not quite so safe for work variety. I'll see if I can post this digital version of Borzilla to the Saints Row PC online boss creation service. Also thanks to Artie Pavlov for the technical difficulty screen. And thanks to my podcast co-hosts for their input and help with this episode, especially Jim for joining me for co-op, and Teddy and Koga for their QC notes. Please check out the rest of my Koobert Opens Worlds video retrospectives. And hey, if you like racing games, I've got plenty of videos on those. And if you enjoy the weird world of Switch and other portable system ports, I have a bunch of those up too. I'm going to start adding Vita and PSP games to the mix to keep things spicy, because again, I love portable systems. There's also my queer history videos, and I'm going to go back and take a look at the surprising queer history of Star Control next. Plus, if you can't get enough of my annoying voice, you can find hundreds of episodes of Square Roots, the classic RPG podcast, with my besties Jim, Vanessa, and Matthew, who play through a classic RPG one chunk at a time. And you can play along, like a book club. Right now we've just finished Grandia 2, and that was my first time playing that game. Check out the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, whatever Android app you use, or here on YouTube. Links in the notes. Goodbye, and I love you, platonically. Next time on Koobert Opens Worlds, one way or another, I'm going to play this Reflections follow-up to Driv 3R.